Nothing's happening.
Now we are. With no actual intro this time, even though we like those intros.
We have a thing. We have a graphic. Oh, can I reach?
Yes.
You got to deal with Lou.
We're live, I think.
Yeah, but there's only a few people.
Good evening, everybody, from the semi-sick bed, I would say. What are you looking for?
I'm trying to open up the stuff.
Oh.
Hold on. Where is it? Did he said he made us a graphic.
He did. Hang tight for 1 second, my friends. Okay. So unfortunately, Jen and myself are both under the weather. We are battling. It's not COVID. It's just an allergy that's been going around, thankfully. I haven't been hit with it as hard as Jen has, but
not as old as I am.
Well, that's not it.
Yeah, it is. The older you get, the harder it is.
All right. Well,
so Reese gave this to me. He was over it in one day.
Well, lucky Reese.
Well, that's what happens when
Jen's
you're
son,
20,
unfortunately, was
because he likes to party on the beach with his friends.
Yeah, and he got his mother sick, so that was not very nice of him.
He doesn't care anyway.
Oh well. So how do I download this?
Go there.
Right.
Open
a new window and download. All
right, but we're here, not in the best way, but we're here.
We're surviving and thriving. We're going to do the best we can.
Although, to be honest, if it wasn't Judah Friedlander, I probably wouldn't be sitting here.
Well,
but we do have a very exciting guest, especially for those of us who were 30 Rock fans. So welcome, Monday night Generational Change Sickly live stream. Fortunately, we can't spread this to people through the internet, so everyone should be fine. But
yes,
we do have Judah Friedlander coming on, which is really, really cool to me. You never watched it, which
no.
I have to hold against you. 30 Rock was, I mean, the first few seasons of that were just comedy brilliant, like just totally brilliant. And so I'm really excited and I did a little research and watched a little of his stand-up today, which was most entertaining. I highly recommend.
Oh, he is like, he's got a little Bill Hicks in him. He's
great. So I'm going to ask him if he'll do a bit for our Pardon Assange live
I don't
stream.
see why he wouldn't. I mean, he's, but again.
Got to keep it clean though. That's the thing. We got to keep it clean. And he's not usually clean.
Well, I mean, if you ask
and by clean, I don't mean unkempt.
No, I was going to say, he really looks like Mick Foley. Should have some intro music.
So the special thing about 30 Rock, what people don't understand is that the character that he played, which was Frank Rossitano, which was one of the writers of 30 Rock. So he always had a different hat. And the hats were apparently his idea, Judah's idea. And they were always different. And they always had some statement on them. And apparently he wore a different one every episode. So he has like over 190 hats.
That would explain the pictures that I've seen of him with.
They're always the hats.
Yeah.
But
that makes sense.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's, well, we can ask if that's something that carries over into other things or if he did that specifically for, I think that was just something that he did regardless.
A couple of things that I wanted to touch on tonight. I haven't even shared this with Jen, but on Saturday, I actually went to this special art walk that they did in Fort Lauderdale. Came across some really awesome small businesses. So one of the things that we're going to do on the show going forward on Mondays is we're going to promote local small businesses throughout the area. One place in particular that I thought was awesome was this guy, Jason Harley, who runs what's called the Bang Shack in Hollywood. It's known for like this chicken dip thing that he does. He was actually on Shark Tank. He didn't get a deal. He was actually really upset that he didn't get a deal from Mark Cuban, and Barbara Corcoran was actually not on the time because she is known for making deals for food stuff.
I would make deals for food stuff.
Now, of course, he's known for chicken,
which we don't eat.
We do not eat, but I got to give him a lot of credit because he was a hustler. He was like, tell me you haven't come over here and tried this, because I decided to get food from what I'm going to tell you about is the other place after that. But he was
I can't believe you went like on an eating thing without me.
No, it wasn't an eating thing. It was the art walk, like with the setups.
No, I know what it is. But it sounds like you were on like an eating thing.
You know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to go to the car because I actually got some stuff and I forgot to bring it in. We could show everybody.
So exactly talk about what you mean by small business, because really we're also doing a labor series on Mondays as well. So I guess we'll just be business all around on Mondays.
But we wanted to, again, this guy in particular, really just he had such a passion for his business. So I wanted to try, and I told him I don't eat chicken. He's like, well, try my zucchini.
Okay, well.
And that was really, really friggin' good. And so credit to him, and credit to also recognizing the market that's coming. The vegan market, the vegetarian market, it's a very big thing. Now, I'm a pescatarian, but the fact that
But yet you're always dragging me to vegan places.
Well, it depends on what the base of the vegan food is. And in this case, if you're using zucchini instead of some, as you like to call it,
Frankenfood,
then that makes a lot more sense. So in this case, we managed to use something that was a very good base, tasted awesome. The only reason I didn't purchase food from him at that particular moment was because I had purchased food from a place called Burger Hive. Now,
you finally got to go to Burger Hive. He's been dying to go to Burger Hive for like a month.
Really, really awesome spot. Had no idea that it was a truck initially, but I finally found them, and I ended up getting the buffalo chicken sandwich.
Frankenfood.
No, it's not.
What did they use? What's the chicken?
I think it's protein, I think.
Okay,
that's what it's called.
That's Frankenfood by definition.
Okay, so that every once in a while I want to have my indulgence, and that's what I'll have instead of having
just have real meat.
No, I'm not. You're encouraging killing animals. That's terrible.
I'm not encouraging killing animals. I'm just saying I don't know that the process to make Frankenfood is that much better. So.
Well, the point is the food was excellent, and they are opening a brick and mortar here in Davie.
Also, this is, I believe, a Black-owned business.
Yes, it is.
Which is especially good. And we will especially promote because we need more of that.
Yeah, they don't get enough attention. And very often it's, who is actually encouraging and who is, telling them where to go. Having the food truck is actually very smart because you can go into whatever neighborhood you want or anyone that is actually willing to
I thought but they have other things though. Like they have multiple different types of veggie things. Like you could go in there and not get Frankenfood and still get a veggie type of burger.
Well, I didn't exactly scour the entire menu. I was craving the buffalo chicken, which I hadn't had in a very long time. So all of a sudden I saw that on the menu and I was like, all right, damn, I'm going to have it. And my God, it was good.
There you go.
But you
Burger
see,
Hive.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to try new things.
When are they opening?
They keep pushing.
They probably weren't anticipating COVID when they first originally had their business plan.
I wouldn't necessarily say that was the reason why. I would think that, sometimes with building permits and things like that, it could take a little extra time. But they got a great product, and that's the bottom line.
And they're opening in Davie, right?
Yes. Very close to here. So my guess is that'll probably be a small brick and mortar. Who knows if they're going to have much seating. It's probably just going to be a place where people can actually come in, order the food, maybe like a pizzeria type of
especially now, I don't even really eat places anyway. I spend more time eating in my car.
But I think having a brick and mortar is a good thing. I think having, an actual place where people can go and get the food, because I'm going to be honest, and it's nothing against the guys who run Burger Hive. It is really hard to track them down when they're in their truck. Not exactly, easy with the directions, but eventually I was able to figure out where they were because I heard the music.
You're like a stalker.
Well, I really wanted the food, so I can't blame me for wanting to try something new. And so ultimately I was able to get it, and it was really, really awesome.
All right, so Monday nights.
Yes.
But we really are starting a labor series. We got lucky tonight with being able to get Judah Friedlander to come on. So this isn't necessarily would be a typical.
No, but we
Monday.
are working on bringing on some additional people, which we are going to be doing. This is Women's History Month, and we do have
every month should be Women's History Month because there would be no other people without the women's.
Wow, that sounds very woke of you to say.
I'm crossing into the over woke.
Jen's becoming over woke.
I'm being over woke.
Yes. Well, I would say this based on what I've observed is that when you do, again, it doesn't matter if you're corporate, you're corporate. So it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. But I will say that when you put women in positions of power, and especially if it's not a male-dominated power position, you tend to be more successful in whatever endeavors.
Here's the bottom line. Okay. If you want to get stuff done, you put women in charge of stuff. I'm sorry, you just do. That's how things get done. Women get things done. They handle the situation. It's just true. I've been watching this my whole life. I assure you.
We're going to find out on Thursday because New York City mayoral candidate Diane Morales will be our special guest.
Woo!
So she will definitely be someone who could speak to you know, she's somebody who I believe has worked in nonprofit and, you know, community organizing. So she'll definitely be somebody who could speak very thoroughly on that. Before we bring in our first guest.
Well, right. We need to explain that.
Yes.
Because I wasn't even aware that we were having, you don't have to get all jazzed up yet, Lincoln. We're not there yet. I see him in the background. All right. So I just saw this today, and it is my understanding that we have somebody who wanted to come on and talk a little bit about, or a lot about, what's going on with the homeless encampments in Miami. Apparently, which doesn't surprise me at all, they are being shut down and corralled. And who, you know what? It's like, let's take the most vulnerable, desperate people we can and kick them when they're down. Like, let's try that. Let's see how that works.
Well, if that's not bad enough, how about the fact that Biden is reopening the Homestead Detention Center?
Yeah.
It's been closed for 2 years.
It's way too profitable to let that real estate just sit there without bodies being filling it.
Oh, come on, man. We're just going to change the name.
I can't.
We're going to change the name.
You could change the name. They'll give it some nice woke name. They'll name it after like Harriet Tubman or something like that. No, they already did.
They're already saying that it's like, they call it like a temp center or something. It's so, I mean, the good news is that there's a lot of people who are actually speaking up against this. You know, you have your activists on the ground, but, you know, Annette Taddeo, our state senator just south of here, you know, has spoken up about it. I believe Senator Chevron Jones has too. But as far as like congressional reps, and especially somebody like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, now when you're taking all that money from the private prison industry.
Yeah, it's just way too profitable to have bodies there.
Especially in Florida. Remember, we are the private prison capital of America.
Florida does have the most for-profit prisons in the country. That is true. We're so stellar here in Florida. It's always great to be number one. Well,
considering I live or have lived in, you know, most of my life in the two states that are the butt end of the most jokes the country has to offer, New Jersey and Florida, you know, we certainly do earn our reputation.
I don't understand the problem with New Jersey. Why did you? It's the Garden State. It's lovely.
It's the armpit of America.
Yeah, and New Orleans is the butthole, but that doesn't mean we don't like it. It's just the way the river flows. It's just the way it goes.
I have to say, though, and we'll address this after Judah comes on the show, but one of the things that we are going to have to talk about is how much the Biden administration is literally cratering, and it's not even 2 months yet. The fact that they are running cover for Neera Tanden harder than they're running cover for a $15 minimum wage is amazing.
But yet, why am I not at all surprised?
David Sirota actually said something very, very smart today.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, that's I think we both did. What Sirota said is that if you do not confirm Neera, and the reason you don't confirm her has anything to do on merits, it basically will set the precedent for every other swamp creature in DC to basically say, yeah, you're not getting confirmed. You do deals with X, Y, and Z, because it's never been like this before. This is what I'm trying to tell people. I understand that a lot of people feel like change really hasn't happened yet. And in ways it hasn't, but in ways it has, because a lot of people are hip to the game now and they understand what's going on. So when they know what the Center for American Progress is up to, and if you haven't seen our podcast with David Sirota, I highly recommend you check it out. He actually was a fellow at the Center for American Progress. He basically let the cat out of the bag that these guys are unbelievably corrupt. Yeah. They're corrupt. They're no different than the Clinton Foundation.
No, I mean, look, the Center for Incremental Progress was incremental progress.
They don't even. Center for no progress. No progress. Regressive progress.
They were created basically to be like a money laundering front for Hillary Clinton's administration had she been elected. So that they could take all their Saudi money and whoever they're taking money from. So
correct.
Yeah, they're pretty filthy. But they've already tried playing the woman card about Neera Tanden. Like, yeah, that's my problem with her is uterus. Yeah, no. Or the fact that she's a woman of color. All right. So do you want to say anything before we invite Lincoln in to tell us what's going on with the homeless in Miami?
So as many of you know, we recently had on the mayor of Miami-Dade County, and that is Mayor Daniela Levine Cava, and she's doing a pretty good job so far as the mayor. And unfortunately, the problem that is existing in Miami is within the Miami city limits. And that is something that our guest Lincoln Rodden is going to be able to speak on in regards to these homeless embankment camps that are all over the place.
Yeah, and I mean, this is just going to be this is going to be multiplying exponentially.
Mm-hmm. So when you get something that's put out there about how the Biden administration is, offering a moratorium on all housing, if you will, in Miami, the only reason something like that is happening is because it's becoming an epidemic. And so when it becomes an epidemic, you have no choice. You have to do something.
Yes.
The problem is that Miami is doing something that Fort Lauderdale has a habit of doing, which is trying to kick homeless people out of the way of the view of the people with money.
Okay, we've always done that. I'm a second generation native Floridian, and we used to have what was called Greyhound therapy back in the day. Greyhound therapy was when all the cities in the really cold places would buy their homeless one-way bus tickets and send them down here. And there used to be, which in all fairness, if you are homeless, it's safer to be homeless in the winter in Florida than in some place like Buffalo. So, correct. I mean, that's, but we have nowhere to put people, which is fascinating because all I see is houses and houses and houses being built.
Yeah, because what would the value be in raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour anyway? I mean, talk about a total waste of money.
All right, so let's find out what's going on.
Yes, let's find out what's going on. So we are going to bring in a super awesome supporter of you and of South Florida.
Okay, anybody who supports me is super awesome.
Well, that's a great.
Everything is awesome.
Yes. So Lincoln, come on in, my friend.
Hi, Lincoln.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I need to fix this because Peter doesn't know how. There we
go. Yeah, okay.
Hello.
Well, I guess not. Now we're good.
So introduce yourself since I don't know you. And hi. I know that you're something to do with University of Miami.
Are you yes, I actually just graduated last May. Yeah.
Okay. So introduce yourself and how this is like where you fall in with this issue.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm Lincoln Rodon. I'm a recent graduate from the University of Miami. I studied film, and I've been looking into ways that I can volunteer around the local community. I'm one of those people who's just gotten so cynical and so jaded with politics and electoral politics, and I feel like no one's really out there helping the everyday working class person, helping the homeless. So if no one else is going to do it, then I may as well give what I can. So with that mentality, I joined this group called ASH Miami, which is ASH, standing for A Small Hand Miami. And what we do is basically once a week, we're like this group of ragtag college kids, and we cook between 50 and 100 meals, hot plates weekly, whether it's tuna pasta, chicken curry, sloppy joes. We really go all out and make a huge just feast. And we distribute them to the homeless population in the Overtown, downtown area. And we also bring humanitarian supplies like blankets, toothpaste, toothbrushes, masks, socks, stuff of that variety.
That's amazing. So where are you? Are you raising money? And is there something we can put in for people to donate? Like, is there yeah. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So I have to tell the story first to hook you guys emotionally, because if this doesn't hook you emotionally, you don't have a heart. So basically what happened last week on the 24th of February, on Wednesday, the city of Miami came through Northwest 1st Avenue and from 10th to 13th Street, like in the Overtown area, and they came with cop cars, they came with a garbage truck, and they just hit these encampments and just completely destroyed them. I know I sent you a photo in the email that I sent you, and it's just the most like least humanity that I've ever seen, like face to face. I mean, I was at work when this was going on, but it's just so terrible. So what we're trying to do to resolve this, because I mean, again, like you guys just mentioned before you brought me on, like these are people who have next to nothing. And while there's empty houses and there's foreclosed houses that are owned by the banks, there's more of those than there are people on the streets. And like, it seems like it's an easily fixable problem, but it's a problem that's fixed with empathy. And we know that doesn't go around politics too well.
It's not profitable.
Yeah, exactly. We're in a capitalist economy where, empathy is at the bottom of the list if it's on there whatsoever.
That's just crazy. So how long has this organization been around?
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
and where can we donate? That's the other thing.
yes, exactly. So just to wrap things up, so basically these whole encampments just got wiped out completely, and these people that had next to nothing pretty much have nothing. Like, this is as close to murdering someone as you can get without breaking the law. So what we're doing is we are collecting donations for sleeping bags, and during our next few distributions, we're going to be bringing those with us, and we're going to be distributing those to anyone who lost their shelter during these sweep throughs. And you can donate. The Cash App is $Ash Miami, and the Venmo is Danny Sophie, which is the name of our founder. It's DANISOFI.
Okay. So guys, and are you're also accepting like physical donations of things? Yes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Where can we bring them?
Yeah, we have a volunteer link on our Instagram page, and
Okay.
you can see all about our WhatsApp messages and where to find leaders and stuff of the organization, and they can help you. We're willing to take anything: socks, used clothes, food, anything that someone who doesn't have much would appreciate. We'll gladly take that.
Yeah, people need to understand the importance of socks to
Oh
homeless
yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand the importance of socks to homeless people. So I want to stress that if you have socks, even your older socks, that they are very useful to people that don't have any. And also bedding, sheets, like towels, like blanket, like those kinds of things are also really, I know, important for people that are living in the elements.
Yeah, especially when those tents have those little dividers and they can't even sleep like on an elevated surface. Now you're on the floor and you've got gunk, you've got rats running around, and like whatever you can do to give these people some shelter, whether it's a tent, some elevated surface like a blanket, mattress, anything, we'll gladly take that.
Okay, so, and you know what? We'll have, John, when you get a chance, make sure you put that in the description of this so that people know where to donate. We have the Cash App and Venmo up, people. So, throw a few bucks their way. The homeless people are, honestly, can you think of people that need help more? And yet here we just kick people when they're down. And we know how bad it is down in Miami. We went and did a caravan. Do you remember?
Yes.
We went and did a caravan, and I always drive around with a cooler that has food in it to give out to people. Like things like I always have like Ensure bottles and granola bars and stuff like that. Nice. And I get these little tuna pouches because they just keep. So he yelled at me because I left our little caravan and walked over past the underpass, and I was talking. And
I thought you were lost. I wasn't
lost. Okay. And so, but yeah, and it's really unbelievable. These are families. Like, I don't think people don't really, I think, understand. They think that we're talking about hobos, and there will always be an element of society that are hobos. There are. That's always going to exist. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about just people that don't have any other options.
Right.
Okay. It's not the same thing as people that have a lifestyle choice of living on the street. So these people need help. There's families, there's people living. We met the woman who was living in her car.
Yes.
That same day. She's living in, there's a lot of people that are living in their cars, that are just
look, we know people in the political movement that are literally on, their last dime. And,
couch surfing.
Can do. And this whole idea about, where they, I mean, they honestly, they think if they pass one $1,400, check, that's gonna hold everybody over till for the rest of the administration.
I also wonder how a lot of those payments and those checks get distributed to the people that are homeless.
By the way, I crunched the numbers, and if they just did a stimulus package, even if it's 1.9 trillion, which apparently is like 3 or 4 trillion lower than it should be, and even if they just did that. If they just did that and distributed evenly amongst the entire population, each person would get about $5,500. Now, that's not everything, but that's a really
that
big
would help
difference.
People get off the street for a little bit.
You're damn right
it would give you some.
Maybe give them an opportunity to stay in like a motel for a month and clean up and go on job interviews and things like that.
Yeah, it definitely would be something that could help people at least in an emergency situation for sure. So how can our organization, because I have an organization where we do volunteer service, and I'd be really happy to do that. I don't normally like to venture to the 305, but
I don't blame you.
But I could definitely be persuaded to go do this. When I was growing up, my mom, her biggest pet charity was always Camilla's House. So it was always about homeless. My mom's always been about homeless people and feeding people. So that's always been something that I grew up, like I grew up as a kid, we would go and donate everything to Camilla's House. And, you know, so
you always want to put yourself in the other person's shoes. What I also think is interesting, and Lincoln, tell me if this would be helpful. Can you use clothes? Is that something that you guys need?
Oh yeah. That's like our biggest donation by far. And we go out like immediatwe every time we distribute clothes, it just evaporates.
I'll put clothes aside for you. What I usually do, any clothes that I don't need, we would go to the, you know.
Yeah, I know. And I don't like that either. I'd much, actually, what I normally do is give it to
dumpster looking clothing.
I don't like that.
I mean.
No, I've always given it to people that I know who know people who need. Whether it's somebody, the woman who cleans my house, she always is very happy to take things and give it at church or do whatever, you know. So, I mean, it's always been a thing, but I would be, you know, I don't really care who gets it as long as it goes somewhere that needs it. You know, it doesn't really matter. There's no shortage of need. So what can we do as an organization to help? Is there something that, or do you not need more people giving things out? You just want donations?
I mean, we'll gladly take volunteers. On the Ash Miami Instagram page, there's actually a link to a volunteer sign-up form.
What's the Instagram? What's your Instagram?
The Instagram is ash.miami.
Okay. So guys, check that out. And actually, I will have Melissa, who is our volunteer coordinator, reach out and see if we can help you guys when you do distributions and see if if you need bodies. And we also have people that live in the 305. But yeah, I'd be really hip to doing that. That's something
awesome.
I like. I walk around with my little cooler.
Lincoln, the other thing that we're doing is we're building a community garden right now in East Hollywood, and it's really taking off. And I think this is something that if we can retrofit it to a whole bunch of different areas, it would definitely provide food for.
Well, that's the thing. And the beauty of it is, and the beauty of it is people that come and volunteer get food. And we also give clippings for people to grow their own at their own. And like, it's really more of an educational thing than a real, it's not like our garden is not going to be a farm that sustains a community. I mean, it isn't, you know, it's not big enough, but the concept of creating it so that everybody is doing their own thing and then swapping and sharing and trading. And that's what we're trying. I mean, that's kind of the goal, you know, is more that for it to be everybody participating and having their own garden.
I like that. Like, I know at the end of the day, like what we're doing is charity, and like, you just have to remember, we don't really have the power to change the whole system. So like on the individual level, let's just do what we can. And I think that community garden idea is fantastic. So please keep that up.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate what you're doing. I think it's amazing. And I agree. I think that every single person that you help is somebody that you help. I don't think it has to always be about policy and politics. And I think that when you're out there doing service, which is anybody who knows me is really the only part of what we're doing that I like the most is the service and not the politics and the nonsense. But yeah, it makes a huge difference. You save one family, you save one kid, you save one person from a night being cold, you save whatever it is. It's like this all matters.
Yeah, you can't close your eyes and ears off forever. And that's what's happening right now until we do have legitimate policies in place and are able to really deal with the core problems of our political system. We still have to do what we can as a collective to help people, because it could be us tomorrow. You never know.
Well, and we know that everybody can't afford, like, how many 3/4 of our country can't afford a $400 emergency? Most people are one paycheck away from living on the street. And what's interesting is that I've noticed this my whole life. Have you ever noticed that the most generous people are the poorest people? Have you noticed this? When I see the people that pull over and help, it's not the guy in the Maserati. Okay. The people that are helping are the people that are one step closer because they get it and they know how close they are. It's true. So and not all, look, there's plenty of wealthy people that donate. I'm not saying they don't, but on the whole, the people that notice it more are the people that are closer to it.
Well, the difference is that people with ways and means actually could make the change, and they choose to do token charity. That is the problem. If they really cared enough to make the systemic change that is necessary, they could do it like that. But they don't want to do it like that because they like having millions, if not hundreds of millions, if not even billions of dollars. And you can't have that unless you're subjugating the system. Having people sleeping out on the street is not necessary. It doesn't have to be. They choose to do it that way because they want people to stay in the rat race. They want people to basically be afraid to ever challenge power. If they ever were to put homeless people in a situation where they had a legitimate social safety net, well, then you're giving power to the people.
Well, right. Then they're going to speak up. Right. No, it's easy to keep people disenfranchised when they're scrambling to live.
Well, we're working to change that.
But anyway, I wanted to say to Melissa, who's my volunteer coordinator, this is Lincoln. Okay. If you're Melissa, if you're watching, that's Lincoln. I think she wasn't sure. Yeah. But anyway, so guys, check it out. Did you want to add anything or,
just thank you for bringing me on, and
absolutely.
Screw Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Just wanted to throw that in there before
we will not refute such a statement.
We will neither acknowledge or deny that. But yeah, I appreciate it. And for anybody else out there, I can honestly say that if anybody wanted to come on for something like this, we'll always make space.
Yes, we always want to have local.
Yes.
Anything that is going to help the communities, because again, like I said,
we'll promote.
We need to do this in order to really build the type of movement down here that is sustainable. Because again, and Mayor Levine Cov even said this the other day, which really stuck, which is, I became the mayor in many ways because I ran in a nonpartisan race. And when you don't have to run under an umbrella and you can run just based on issues and, drive the narrative based on that and not on what team I'm on, that's what most people really want to be involved with.
Yeah.
And what's going on right now on the Hill when it comes to the $15 minimum wage, which God knows how many people, they say at a minimum, and they probably don't even have the numbers right, but they say at a minimum, the $15 minimum wage would take 1 million people out of poverty. So how many of that 1 million people are in Miami right now? Probably quite a few, I would say. So
thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for reaching out, because I don't think a lot of people think to do that. They don't think to just reach out and say, hey, can I come on your show? But for anybody listening, you have volunteer work that you're doing. You can also come on our show.
Absolutely. Lincoln, thank you so much. Keep spreading the word. And guys,
we'll reach out. We'll be in touch and we'll hook you up so that we can have Gen Corps volunteers coming down there too.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.
Appreciate what you're doing, Lincoln. Have a great evening.
I'll be tuned in for the rest of the stream.
Oh, cool. You get to see Judah. I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Take care.
So that obviously is, it is heartbreaking, as you say.
It's just ridiculous to me. First of all, I have to question how anybody who does that, and I don't care if you're following orders. How do you sleep at night? How does somebody sleep at night when they go and bulldoze people's last possessions to how do these people live with themselves? I don't understand.
When I was in my early 20s, my first job, I had a couple of jobs out of college, but there was one company in particular I wanted to work for that was in Westchester County, New York, and I couldn't afford to live in the area where the job was.
Which is most people.
So unfortunately, I had to make a choice. I didn't want to have to go through a grueling commute every day. So I had to choose whether or not I wanted to drive over the Washington Bridge every day. And I was not going to do that. So where did I end up staying? I ended up staying in the Bronx. And that was not easy. And of course, when I was there, I had a room with a mattress on the floor and one tiny closet to put some clothes in. And that's it.
I like it when you tell the story. It kind of reminds me of my grandmother when she would say how she used to walk to school both ways in the snow uphill, holding hot potatoes in her hands to keep them warm.
Is that actually true? Or are you just
I don't know. No, my grandmother did say that. Now, whether or not it was true, I don't know.
Honest or whatever. No, but the reason I'm saying this is because I was malnourished. I was not able to afford much. I remember, I had to choose if I had a few bucks to go eat at Taco Bell or eat at McDonald's. And
how old were you?
24.
Yeah, you can eat Taco Bell at 24.
Well, even still, I didn't want to eat that stuff.
I mean, a lot of people do. They want to run for the.
But you do what you got to do.
Yo quiero Taco Bell. I used to love that Chihuahua.
Yeah, that's bigoted, just slightly.
I didn't make the commercial. It was funny.
Imagine if they tried to make it today. If they
well,
were
no, it's rude. But I mean, really, it is a Mexican themed place. So why would you
I
not
wouldn't
have
go
that?
so far as call it Mexican.
I had air quotes.
There's Mexican, there's Tex-Mex, and then there's Taco Bell.
Well, that's like saying that McDonald's makes a great burger, right? It's the McDonald's of burgers. You know, it's not.
People would argue that Burger King makes a great Whopper burger, but that's
okay. No.
Okay. Listen, I don't eat burgers anymore, so it doesn't really matter. No. But again, it wasn't easy. And at the drop of a hat, who knows, what might have happened. All I know is that I didn't want to be in that situation any longer than I needed to be. And I can only imagine anybody who's living on the streets does not want to be in that situation any longer than they need to be.
Especially people with their families and their children.
Correct.
This is the thing that always just blew my mind. There was a point I remember years ago where it was something like 30% of the homeless people were families with children. This was a while ago, but it wouldn't surprise me to hear, and I don't know, as a mom, I just can't fathom. I can't fathom. And the people that have to like look at their kids and know their kids are hungry and they can't afford to feed them. See, this is the kind of thing that just makes me insane.
The fact that we're bringing on Judah and he is actually the first.
Well, that will be comic relief.
Well, he's the first comic we've actually ever brought on. Ironically, he's one of the biggest comics out there.
Well, I interviewed David Cross, but that was sort of before we switched over to only doing live stream format. Which
that's the point. Okay, so he's number 2. My mistake.
Right.
Got to include David. And David is a huge supporter of Jen and, a massive anti-Debbie Wasserman Schultz
he is.
person. So,
and also from another great show that you also never watched, which was Arrested Development.
I just don't really watch much TV.
I know, but it's sad. But you're missing some really, really great comedy.
I'm reading a great book right now by Doris Kearns Goodwin.
That's not remotely fun.
I understand, but I'm just saying I read.
That's just not fun. That's smart, maybe, but it's not fun. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to him. I actually had this idea today to sort of make a hat, like with the thing, as like an homage to for anybody who has watched 30 Rock, you do know that there's a thing with Judah and the hats. And I had this idea, but I'm not sure, like a lot of them are very like cryptic and I don't know, and I think maybe I'm just obtuse and I don't understand all the jokes. That's very possible.
I think, one of the reasons why, having Judah on is and it's great to have him on right now. He's one of the people who didn't lose his way in the Trump era, because a lot of people did, and they gave up. I don't know if it was deliberate. I think people were obviously, there's a lot of careerists out there, but there's not a lot of those, George Carlin type comedians that are out there that are really willing to challenge the establishment anymore. Judah's not one of those guys. But
we're going to have to remind him that this is the PG time now.
Yes.
But
because we're monetized now.
We are monetized
And if you guys want to make a contribution, remember, you can put something in the super chat. We prefer you to be a Patreon. But we really appreciate it if you are watching any of our clips to let the ads run. Very important. Let the ads run.
Let the ads run.
Betsy, I just wanted to acknowledge your statement. And yes, it is very difficult for anybody to recognize just how precarious one situation can be at any moment. And that's why we have a lot of ideas on the table right now. And I know there's a lot of advocates out there, especially in the Humanity Forward group, Andrew Yang. We love Andrew and we love the concept of UBI. That is not going to see a floor vote in God knows how long. But right now we have an opportunity to get the $15 minimum wage, because it's actually the one concrete policy that Biden did agree to with Bernie Sanders prior to the election.
Yes, and we all know that we can hold Biden accountable to what he said he would do, right?
Come on, man. Can't hold me accountable.
I didn't believe it I honestly don't believe a word that comes out of his mouth.
But I think ultimately,
I don't think he even knows what's coming out of his mouth.
Again, what needs to happen is you need to not worry about if the GOP is going to crush the Democrats. That's not the point. The point is that there needs to be a movement of progressives to really ramp up these primaries against these corporate Democrats to take apart this party. And you know who needs to step up with that? The Squad and a lot of other representatives that are not on corporate dollars. You cannot be worrying about, if you care so much about the tens of millions of people in this country right now who do not have a pot to piss in, then I don't give a damn about your career. It's here today, gone tomorrow. And all the people that know that, and that's Cori Bush, She knows that probably better than anyone.
Well, she's truly a warrior for her people, and she is there to fight for her people. So whatever she does is going to be what's in the best interest of her constituents, whatever that is. Like, no doubt.
I just know that there's people who just simply have no patience for this anymore. And the way that this is being handled is abysmal. And other than Bernie, Ilhan Omar, and Ro Khanna, I think maybe a couple of other people sprinkled in, nobody spoke up against Biden's airstrikes. That's bad. Really
and
bad.
I say again, had Hillary won, we would have had these boots on the ground 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So again, not a Trump supporter, but I do think that bought us time in Syria.
I think right now you gotta have some type of an anti-war message. And, now that I'm thinking about it, again, Jen and Katie Halper are planning a Pardon Assange telethon on Saturday, March 20th.
From 2 to 6 Eastern time.
We have got a lot of confirmed guests already.
Yes.
Can't say who they are.
No, we don't
like.
Well, no, not just that, but people cancel, things change. So I don't want to put that out there. But yeah, so far, with very few exceptions, everybody has wanted to participate. And I will throw this out as sort of like a teaser, is that we have reached out to Dr. Cornel West.
Well, he's the one we want.
Yes.
He's the big get.
Well, and he has his hands full right now with all that nonsense from Harvard. They're putting him through a whole song and dance. But so we have some big name people already, and we're working on our thing. So from 2 to 6 on March 20th, we're going to be doing Pardon Assange, basically live stream telethon.
But I think we can do it as a double-edged sword, which is not only Pardon Assange, but basically an anti-war message, because that's essentially what this is. Assange has exposed the war machine as much as anything.
Yeah, but really, we need them to drop the case against Assange. And our producer just reminded me, we have also reached out to Noam Chomsky, but I don't know.
I would love to come on and.
That's not even. Don't even. You don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do people that we don't want to mock.
I have to work. No, I'm not mocking.
It sounds mocking.
I'm
don't do it.
I
don't.
Chomsky.
It's not good.
Well, he's 95 years old.
I don't. I know. But so we're gonna. And
who's gonna go first? Who's going first? Chomsky or Kissinger? Who's gonna last longer?
God, I can't. Is Kissinger still alive?
Somehow.
Oh, good God.
He drinks people, young kids' blood.
Well,
you have to know that he's doing that.
He's like Mitch McConnell. He's like the undead.
Did you hear what Mallory
Will
said?
you stop?
Did you hear what Mallory said?
Yeah, it does. You know what? Don't encourage him, Mallory. Don't encourage him. So, oh God, no, not Arnold.
We're going to bring together the Republicans.
But I really would like to get Jesse Ventura. That is something I would. Don't do it. You don't do it right. You make him sound like he's got like real mental slowness.
I do not talk like. You know what?
You can't do it. You can't do it. It's not your.
Welcome to my world.
That's all right.
Jesse Ventura.
Enjoy
the ride. I am bringing you off the grid, and I am going to bring you.
It's the world according to Jesse.
He would have been such a great president.
Oh, he's just
candidate.
Awesome. I know.
Oh, God, why did they? F the Greens. I'm sorry. Can't help it. Just, you.
Do the My Pillow guy. That's not the My Pillow guy. So his Chomsky sounds like Sylvester. Yeah, I could see that. Look, it requires effort.
You got to remember, I haven't been practicing. I'm just
he just pulled that out of his butt. But okay. Like Noam Chomsky is definitely a big get. Like that would be. I don't even know that I would be able. I remember watching Katie talk to him, and she was a little bit kind of starstruck. Like she was even a little bit like. Kind of, feeling out of the element there with him. That's like a whole different universe.
Nobody should.
Dr. West wouldn't be much different though.
Nobody should be afraid.
Remember when I met him at that thing, and you weren't there when I was talking to him. So when was that? It was at the first presidential debates, and Cornel West and Nina Turner were here supporting Bernie Sanders, and we saw them at this after party at the. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Look what you did now. You ruined everything.
I didn't mean to.
And he's a linguist. specialist. You ruined everything. So I met Cornel West. This was the best thing. And he is standing there. And first of all, I'm disgusting and sweaty and gross because we had been out at this thing all day. And I go up and he's standing there in his 3-piece suit. He's got his fob. He's got the whole 9 yards. And I walk up to him and I'm like, ha, ha, big fan. It was like all that could come out of my mouth. I got some girl to take a picture, which was blurry and horrible. And then she didn't even know who that was. So he walked away and she's like, who was that? And I'm like, oh, for the love of God. So my only interaction with Cornel West is he probably thinks I'm either mute or just challenged in some way. Maybe. I don't know. I was barely able to keep it together. I'm just saying. So
well, I don't have that problem.
I don't normally have that problem, but it was Cornel West.
When I met Nina Turner the first time, I just told her how much I loved her. I remember that.
But she's different because she's just so regular person. She's just a regular person. Whereas Cornel West is like this. I mean, just the whole presentation, the whole thing. I just couldn't even with him.
No,
yeah,
special.
I can't. Oh, and I have this thing about really smart people, and so that's that. And
well, that's also been the thing on the political right in particular, and the evangelical right. That's always been the biggest problem. Is just this. There's two problems. Number one, you have the
only two.
The primary problems.
Okay.
You have the anti-education movement, which is on the right, but then you have the what you would call ego. Educational problem on the left. You have the people that think that you should be defined by how many degrees you have.
Well, right. But there's a happy medium. So you've got the right, which basically supports an anti-science, we don't really care about academia and they slam it. And then you have the elitist liberal left, which is the other problem.
I think the reason this ultimately came to pass has a lot to do with just the machinations of what happened under Reagan, because I don't think people really understand, especially in his first term, just how popular Reagan was in this country. He changed politics, literally.
Some of us remember.
Well, I remember it pretty well, and I can't actually. What am I talking about? I can't remember any of it.
I don't think he knew what was going on then.
In the first term part of it anyway, but not in the second term. The point is, you had the Democrats who basically went after the Republican donor base, if you will. And it ultimately worked out because the triangulation of the...
If you could see, he's doing a triangle with his hands.
Of the Democratic
Party.
Party.
You would all need to see what that looks like.
Well, think about it. Clinton only became president because Ross Perot ran, but he ultimately did become president because of James Carville's decision to go with the triangulation.
Not good. No.
Hate him.
Don't do Carville.
So...
He used to be cool.
No, he's never cool.
He was.
He's a sleazebag.
Well...
But
he was always a sleazebag, but he used to at least be cool.
The point is, instead of, because of when Reagan fired the air traffic controllers, he completely destroyed the labor movement. And when the unions didn't have strength, the Democrats, with the third way, the DLC, got in bed with the banks. And this was in the mid-'80s. And then slowly but surely, it ultimately came to pass when Clinton became president. And they had, a very strong support network. But shrewd SOB Newt Gingrich ultimately took the next steps that Reagan had started, the religious right revolution, and they became a hard Christian right party in the early 90s. And
it was before that, and it was Ralph Reed and the Christian right and all that stuff. And so, and now we have our guest just joined us and just jumped on. So this is exciting.
About like endless amounts of material to talk about. We have the world champion of comedy joining us right now.
It's a world champ.
Yeah.
All right, we got it, and we're going to have to talk about the hats. We're going to talk
about the hats. I was kind of, if we didn't have any copyright problems, Judah, I definitely wanted to play Mankind's Crash theme. You coming on because totally have you've definitely got the look down, and if you're on Long Island too, then that just
all right. So this is a way bigger deal for me because I was a big 30 Rock fan. Okay, he didn't watch. He doesn't understand what he was missing. He doesn't understand.
I haven't seen it. I heard it's good. I haven't seen it.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it was awesome. I found it to be fairly brilliant, and I thought every single character was so perfect on that show. And I still have references to that.
I've been meaning to check it out. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. So what's going on? What are you up to?
Oh, just trying to fight fascism with karate and jokes.
What works better?
Well, they're both effective. It doesn't have to be one or the other, really.
You're both. All right.
Yeah.
So explain the hats for anybody who doesn't understand. The hats is a big deal, at least. And is that something that you did for 30 Rock, or was that?
For that. Oh, okay. All right. So
the hats.
Let's see. So 30 Rock, I think we started filming that in, I don't know, 2006, something like that. I think that was like 2006 to 2012, somewhere around there. Or maybe it was 2005. Maybe it was 2005 we started filming. I can't remember. But anyways, so I started doing stand-up in 1989. And I've been making my own hats since, I don't know, somewhere in the 90s, I guess.
Okay.
So my act is, I've been doing stand-up a while. My act is, changed over the years. And for a long time, my hats always said, when I did stand-up, they would always say world champion on it.
Right.
And it meant different things over the years. And it still means different things. And it was basically a satire of, throughout the act, the theme was a satire of narcissism, of personal narcissism, right? And then over the years, the past 10 years or so, it sort of morphed into my stand-up act, a satire on national narcissism, the narcissism of a whole country, as well as other things. I'm not going to get into that now. But so for 30 Rock, I used to do a fair amount of movies. And before I did 30 Rock, I was probably doing, stand up every night and then doing probably 3 to 5 movies a year, from anywhere from working from, 2 days on a movie to maybe 2 months on a movie. And then 30 Rock came about. I wound up getting a part in that, auditioning for that and getting a part in that. I didn't know anyone on that show. And so that's a different kind of a gig. Before you do one episode of a TV show like that, you have to sign a 6-year contract before you film one episode.
Wow.
So as a guy who's used to instability, who prefers probably a high level of instability and chaos, signing a 6-year contract is kind of scary. Now I know it's work, it's, but also, I mean, the job can end in a week too. They could cancel the show in the week, but in case it goes 6 years, you have to sign on for 6 years. So, and it's a TV show that films, I don't know, 8 or 9 months out of the year. So if I'm playing a character who's not me, and I've done work in movies where I've played characters that look nothing like me. I've cut off all my hair, I've colored it, I've straightened it, walk a certain way, talk with a different accent. So if you're doing that for like a month straight, where you don't look like you don't talk like you, it can wear on you psychologically. So when I got the part on 30 Rock, and before I agreed to do it, I was like, look, if I'm going to do this, I want to be able to look like me on it, so that it's at least not going to be fucking, more mentally draining. So, and they were cool with that. And then I said, all right, for the hats, I'm not going to make one that says world champion, because that's what I wear on stage. And I'm not playing me. I'm playing someone who looks like me, but I'm not playing me. So I was like, well, how about Frank, the character I played, in a passive aggressive way, can maybe put things on his hat that, because I'm a writer on the show that Liz Lemon is the head writer on. Liz Lemon's my boss on the show.
Of course, I know this, but
right. So right. For people like, so I'm like, well, how about Frank, passive aggressively, maybe putting some names of some rejected sketches that he wrote on his hat, so I'd have stuff like, karate sluts, and there's no way Liz Lemon's going to greenlight that, he's sexist and, rightfully so on her part. But I'm like, maybe it'd be cool if, Frank's doing stuff like that. And it can also be another way, maybe Frank were being like, almost in a sense where he's a little shy, or maybe if he's testing out jokes, he might put them on his hat. This way he doesn't have to maybe bomb by verbally telling someone a joke. or it can just be extra jokes that can add to a scene. Like there was one scene where my character and the character named Lutz.
That was the best.
We have a scene where we come back to the office and Liz says, where were we? No, she says, where we're going. We're leaving the office. She says, where are we going? And we go, oh, we're going to Times Square to rip off tourists. No, to pretend that we're tourists. So we're doing some kind of a prank or scam thing. So I wore a hat that said Olay. So it's just a little extra joke for people watch it to maybe catch something else or another joke or had a little bit of depth. So that's what that was. But for stand-up, it's a totally different thing.
Right. I love that show so much. I'm serious. There are still things that come up. There's our campaign volunteer, Bryson. We have this volunteer, Bryson. He's Kenneth. And when I tell you that, he's Kenneth. And I wish that this guy understood what I was talking about when I tell you that that's who it is. I have references to that all the time. And I actually pulled up an episode today and watched when you guys had to drop trowel because they ran the emergency and you're taking off your clothes and you got
me and Watts are we get into our underwear or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, that seemed to happen to us a lot. Yeah, we were kind of we played scumbags on that show, and we were always trying to prank people or somehow do something nefarious, and it pretty much always backfired on our characters. We might pull off one prank, but then we get pranked worse.
I thought it was great. You think you were scumbags. I just think you were kind of like lovable losers.
Yeah, well, that's another way of saying it. We were likable scumbags. It was a mix of laughing at us and with us. I mean, the show is obviously very well written, storyline and joke wise, but our characters were basically scumbags. I mean, certainly mom was. Yeah, but
we are speaking with Judah Friedlander, a very well-known comic in what has become, somewhat of an anti-comic era. Unfortunately, that's what the last several years has been like. We actually shot you a message. I don't know if you have your phone with you, but if you can retweet the link that we sent, want to get this out to as many people as possible right now.
Do you tweet?
Oh, well.
What's that?
You tweet, right?
Twitter. I do have a Twitter account.
There you go. So you're already ahead of me.
So what I do want to ask you, which I think is very.
I don't have a phone though. I don't have a phone.
Well, lucky you. You can just work off analog.
Look, if people need me, I just show up. Okay, that's what I do.
Well,
heroes do.
So power's in the hat. But I wanted to ask you what it's been like observing how comedy has changed in the Trump era, because this, comedians are supposed to be anti-establishment, and all too often I've been seeing so many that are, they're not challenging power the way that you would think that they would be.
They're supposed to be.
What's been like that?
Well, these are all great questions. All great questions. And I just want to discuss your premise a little bit about what comics are supposed to be. Now, I agree with you. It would be really cool if comics were supposed to be, or in general, were anti-establishment, speaking truth to power. I don't know the history of comedy, if that's actually true, though. I think there's probably a lot of history of comics just being a shill for the establishment, maybe. It depends how they're used. It's kind of like, it can be like any kind of a thing where it can be used for good or bad. Now, I agree with you. I think not just, since the previous administration, but I think for, a good 10 years or more, just like society, corporations have gotten more and more powerful and have had more of an influence over people's lives, whether they know it or not. I think you've seen that in the entertainment business, including the comedy business, where it's, it sucks. And comedy's a bigger business than ever, and it's gotten more corporate than I certainly ever remember it. It's gotten more self-promotional with, the introduction of social media. I mean, if you were a comic 20 years ago, the only way you could tell people you were doing a show was to take an ad out in a newspaper. Pretty much nobody did that. Get on a radio show, local radio show, or literally get a photocopy machine and some magic markers and put up flyers around your neighborhood or the town that you're visiting. There wasn't the power that there is now of that. So when there became more social media tools, there became more ways to promote. And with YouTube and stuff like that, you know, people argue, oh, comedians actually have more power now than ever. Well, in a sense, that's true, but in a sense, it's not, because it's actually the people who have the best marketing skills are the best at furthering their comedy career now. You know, not necessarily. I mean, how many viral videos have you seen that are really not quality, but they have millions of hits? So quality doesn't lead to quantity. So back to your thing though about, yeah, as far as like network television goes, it's hard to see, you know, any quality comedy that's of the social commentary ilk, if you will, or political ilk, if you will. A lot of it's just, you know, sort of like superficial jokes that are anti-Trump, that don't really, you know, hit hard to the core of the problem.
I find it low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. You know, it's just like, you know, everyone's been making fun, you know, doing, you know, easy jokes on Ted Cruz this last week. And meanwhile, the Republicans in over 40 states are changing the voter laws and disenfranchising voters. It's like, that can be talked about, you know, so.
But it's not funny.
You know, no, it can be funny. It can be funny too. It's more difficult maybe to do humor about that, but it's not, it doesn't mean it's not going to be as funny, you know? So there's a lot of, you know, comedy that's, you know, just not that high quality comedy. Although once in a while, I think some shows do some good stuff. I've actually seen this of all the, I don't watch that much TV, but Seth Meyers' show, I've actually seen do some things where they get pretty in depth once in a while and do some pretty good stuff in one of their segments. But overall, yeah, a lot of it's just kind of like a generic monologue joke. It's almost like political humor has become mainstreamed. It's become pop culture. So if you're doing a joke about Trump or whatever, that's the same thing as doing a joke about the Kardashians in the way that it's often done on network television, where it's very superficial. It's not often that hard hitting. I'm not saying it never is, but often that's the case. So, and then if you look at it with comedian, if I'm talking too much, feel free to interject.
No.
It's
all good. This is good.
No, but it's like, if you look at it, you know, as far as comedy goes, I mean, there's more people doing it, and that's great. Now, comedy, the comedians who are doing comedy now, it's gotten much more diverse, and that's great. But it's I don't know, the corporateness of it has gotten worse, and the seek for fame has gotten worse. You know, I think like 30 years ago, becoming a famous comedian, I don't even know how many comedians really thought that was possible, but they went into it anyways, you know. And when you put fame in there, then you have to wonder why people are doing comedy. They can just do anything. So it's like, so if most comedians want to be famous, if most want to be rich, then comedy's not the thing they're interested in the most or care the most about. So if they want to get famous and get rich, they're going to want to have to stay within the system of Hollywood, right? In general.
Yep.
And, you know, the myth that Hollywood is a bunch of left-wing loony commies is a myth. Most of it is not. You know, who owns most of the studios? Who owns all of the studios? It's not left-wing progressive people or organizations. It's some of the biggest corporations in the world who are always going to lead right-wing. So,
you got the four horsemen. It used to, you know, Weinstein used to be one of them, but you have Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen, and they basically run the whole show. And everything is kind of, you know, it's sort of like controlled. You can only take it so far. And then I also think one thing that doesn't get talked about enough is we're living. There's a lot more censorship now. There's a lot more of things that you can't say. There's a lot more of this oversensitivity.
I call it overwoke.
Overwoke. I do think.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a very tricky thing. It's very tricky, the whole stuff with that, because a lot of time, I mean, I guess it used to refer to as the PC people, right? Yeah. Where in my opinion, a lot of times they're correct. And the things they're fighting for is correct. Do they overreach? Do they get it wrong sometimes? Of course. Do they ever admit they get it wrong? I don't know. If they do, probably not enough. Now, on the other hand, you have so many people who are pro First Amendment, yet they use it as a mask for hate speech, and not just hate speech, but hate activism, for open bigotry. So it gets really confusing, so it's like, I take every case individually, and so it's tricky times. I'm someone who always fights for human rights, and and then if you look at a lot of the people who are, I mean, there are people who are for free speech and who mean it, but then there are often who use it in a bad faith way, where they'll be all for free speech and against the woke stuff, but yet they'll never defend people at a Black Lives Matter march, because they're bigots, So it's a interesting thing.
So wait, I just want to ask, speaking of free speech, what are your thoughts on Julian Assange?
Well, Assange, I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but from the little bit that I know, it's what's being done to him and is extremely dangerous. So it seems like, it needs to be supported, know.
So we're planning a live stream telethon on March 20th from 2 to 6 Eastern time for Pardon Assange. We've gotten a bunch of content creators and people to come on.
Cool.
And I'd love for you to come on. Like, I don't know if you would be interested in coming on and doing a bit or something like that. It would be really cool. Anytime within
just
that.
Hit me up. I can probably do it. So.
All right, cool. So John, reach out to Judah. I mean, we're breaking it up into like different segments, but anything that you would be willing to give of your time that could make that remotely more entertaining than it otherwise will be, as a bunch of just other, because it's gonna be a bunch of talking heads like me sitting around, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but this would be, this should have a sizable audience, and to give you an opportunity to basically do a bit. Like, you're not, this is not, just conversation.
No.
Right.
Yeah, you could, whatever. I mean, we're just trying to bring as much attention simultaneously to this issue. We want everybody to be flooding Biden's office and the AG's office, demanding that they drop the charges against Julian Assange. The fact that he's being tried prosecuted under the Espionage Act is outrageous.
Yeah, you always know when the power players, when they're really against something, is when they never bring it up. So like it's never on the main. If you look at the mainstream TV news, it's never on there. And that's because they really don't want to. Like, you'll see that with protests a lot, like protesting has gotten mainstreamed in the past few years. I think it started with the first women's march after what was it,
2017.
The pink hats.
Look, and I'm all for that march. I support that march, but it got mainstreamed, and then marches became, cool to go to, cool to show on TV. Whereas before, pretty much the only time they would ever show a protest on TV is if some violence broke out, and they kind of show it in a way sort of discouraging people from speaking up for themselves. So it's so the fact that they don't even mention the Assange case negatively or positively, it's just ignored. I think that speaks a lot, and think about why that is.
I happen to love. We do have a question. Let's jump to that real quick. So, what does Mr. Friedlander think will happen to the future of stand-up and touring comedy, since many of the venues have obviously shuttered, and who knows if they will come back due to COVID?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard question to ask. I mean, I think eventually things are going to come back. But the other thing to realize is that most are probably open on some level. Most states haven't shut down.
Well, we're Florida, nothing's shut down here.
Yeah, exactly. Most states are open. So now that's a whole other issue. You know, I think that's dangerous to be having no restrictions on things. But I'm only doing shows right now I produce my own shows, about 3 a week. And it's pretty damn similar to a regular show in person because I do them over Zoom. All the shows are pay what you want. Each show is about 2 hours. I do about an hour and a half set, and I have 2 to 3 comics going before me doing 10 minutes each.
Where can people see that? Like, where can we?
Just go to my Twitter or Instagram. I'm really unorganized. I don't even have a mailing list. So it's Judah World Champ on Instagram and Twitter. So yeah, I have a show like this Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern. I have a show, and then Friday daytime at 3 p.m. New York time, I have a show because I like pre-pandemic. I would tour internationally a fair amount, so it's like nighttime for Europe and the Middle East at that point. But yeah, so I do it on Zoom where the audience has the option to have their camera on and their microphones on. So I do crowd work, I do new jokes, and then I always hire someone, sometimes more than one person, to sort of do the tech. So if anyone's computer is causing an audio interruption, it can get taken care of immediately, and there's no audio disruptions throughout the show. So I'll have an audience. Let's say there's 60 people in the audience, 30 of them have their cameras on. It's a cool, fun, intimate show. Yeah, and it totally works.
That's awesome, actually. A Zoom gig. Like, that's
great. So I do those. I produce about 3 of my own a week where I do a long set. And like I said, those are pay what you want. The minimum donation's $1 because that's what it's like set at. So, for $1, you can see a 2-hour show. That's and I always have different comics on. And so it's, and as awful as these times are, there's a lot to talk about.
When you were able to travel, what would you say were some of your favorite places to go to perform? And
crowds,
the crowd wise.
For some reason, Sweden is really good.
There you go.
Sweden kind of has a really good mix of, first of all, well-educated. Their world knowledge is very good. They speak better English than. Their English is easier to understand than the people in England. It's like they have a really good. Their English is remarkable, and they kind of have the perfect energy of good energy, but not too out of control and rowdy. So they're not too well behaved. You don't want an audience too well behaved, and you don't want them too out of control. So Sweden's great. Yeah.
Sweden's good on everything, really.
Yeah. Berlin is great. Sometimes it can be a little too cool for school, kind of like some of your hipster Brooklyn rooms. Sometimes can be a little bit like, hey, it's about us. We're cool. We'll judge you and let you know if you're good enough for us to be watching. Sometimes there's a little bit of that, but Berlin's a fascinating city. Where else is great? I don't know. There's some. I mean, in general, I like I like as diverse of an audience when it comes to race, gender, and economics. I like the biggest mix possible, and open-minded certainly.
We unfortunately have heard. We actually had David Cross on the show, and he actually did say that he's
not coming back to Florida anytime soon.
And unfortunately, we don't have a very good reputation on many fronts. But have you had any good experience in Florida? Has it been,
Yeah, I've had some good shows in Florida. Well, it's first of all, every place. It's not like the mainstream media makes it out to be. It's like, okay, everyone in this state's in QAnon. Everyone in this state is in Neera Tannen's book club. Everyone in this state, it's not like that. Almost every city has different pockets of people of different ideologies. So I've had some great shows in Florida, and then it just really depends of the venue that you're at. I mean, I'd say certain cities are lean different directions than other cities, no doubt.
But I would think you'd get a certain crowd just being who you are. Like you're going to get a certain type of audience to come and see you versus somebody who would go see somebody else. Like you're
yeah. But you know, it's always a mix. You know, it's a mix. But you know, I don't think I have one type of demographic really. You know, like if there are people who know me only from 30 Rock, they'll be coming in. If there's people who know me from my stand-up, you know, there might be some 30 Rock fans there, but it'll be a different group also, you know. I also want to plug if I can just plug my stand-up special. It's probably like almost 4 years old at this point, but it's still all relevant. It's on Netflix, but it was made separately from Netflix. I made it 100% independently. And then after it was finished, it was licensed to them. So it's very different than the others. It's black and white. It's low budget, handheld cameras, and no cheesy audience reaction shots. Just and it's all, you know, jokes, crowd work, satire on.
What's the name of the special?
It's America is the Greatest Country in the United States.
I knew I can't believe I forgot the name.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so you can't argue with that. Factually, I'm comfortable to argue with that. So check that out. The material I do now is all new material. I probably have 3-4 hours of new material since that came out, but Netflix hasn't returned my emails in a couple of years, so I don't know what's going on there. But no surprise. But
honest for them.
What's your process? Like what, you know, I mean, to me, I have such an admiration for comedy. I think that it is so smart and so brilliant. It really requires, you have to be bright I think, or at least for me to appreciate the humor. Like there's a level of intelligence involved in it. I also am not a fan of like stupid humor. I'm not like a Three Stooges person. I don't talk about your stupid humor stuff.
She doesn't like Jim Carrey type humor.
No,
like
I
that
don't.
type of
it's all right. You don't have to. I mean, everyone's, you know, humor is subjective. So,
absolutely. So what's your process? I mean, clearly you love stand-up. And clearly
that's always been my main thing. You know?
Yeah. Any particular inspirations or guys that you looked up to, or ladies?
No, I mean, there's lots of people, but no one in like particular or anything. It's just, you know, I did comedy. I used to do political cartoons when I was a kid, when I was like 10 and 11. And so I was always into comedy and always did a lot of art. And then when I was 16, that's when I realized you could do stand-up comedy. I didn't know that was I didn't know that it really existed or there was something you could do. So then I started writing jokes. Then I started when I was 19. And then, so it's always changing and progressing. But yeah, I always just carry around a sheet of paper. I always have a pen. And if something comes into my head, I write it down.
Old school.
And then I try to read a lot. And sometimes I get, you know, I read mostly serious books on,
like him,
you know, political theory, human rights. You know, that's what I'm always reading about. So I often get, you know, because I like to do satire and jokes about the most difficult things and the worst things, and to shed light on them. But you know, it's all comedy. But
the one I'm reading,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The one I'm reading right now is called "Leadership in Times of Crisis" by Doris Kearns Goodwin.
That sounds so boring.
But if he likes, that type of,
sounds good. I'll check it out.
Thank you.
I haven't read that.
Judah, the one movie I did want to talk to you about, because the only celebrity I've ever encountered that my heart ever skipped a beat was for Springsteen.
We can go one episode without talking about Bruce Springsteen.
I happen to be from the same areas in New Jersey, and I was just curious what your experience was like. You know, working on The Wrestler, working with Mickey, and working with Aronofsky, and you know what that was all. That
was awesome. Great. Yeah, no, that was. Well, I have to go in a minute, but that was great. That was a cool movie. I read the script and I was like, holy shit, I gotta fucking figure out a way to get in this. This is fucking good. Because, you know, a lot of the stuff I get is, you know, it's not good, but, you know, we're in a capitalist society that doesn't provide healthcare, so I gotta try to get jobs, you know. So, you know, there's no stand-up comedy union. There's no healthcare in stand-up comedy. So acting, if you do
that you don't live in a cardboard box. Can we just?
Well,
can we
well,
just
look, they say the
clarify here?
outdoor air is safer, so I'm on the street.
Because you really like this. Really looks like you're living in a box.
Look, I view people who live indoors as anti-environment. So,
Well,
the wrestler, I think was a great movie.
that was.
Aronofsky, I was a fan of. I auditioned for it. Now, I had been a wrestling fan. I used to drive from New York to Trenton to Philly to go see ECW in the 90s. So, and I know some wrestlers. Mick Foley, I know. Brian Hefner on the Blue Meanie, I know. I know other wrestlers. So I talked with other wrestlers, some wrestlers who I knew for research. I campaigned a lot on my own, did a lot of work to try to really get that part. I did get it. And when we filmed it, it was the opposite style of 30 Rock acting. 30 Rock, you got to do word for word. You got to say it the way they want you to say it. The wrestler was like being in a documentary, except they told you what to say beforehand. It was completely as natural and real as possible. So yeah, I was only there a couple days, but that was a great experience. Yeah,
I like that movie. I actually interviewed a wrestler. I
Yes.
introduced Matt Seidel,
Who's,
Evan Bourne, and
Cool.
it was cool. I didn't know really. I mean, I used to follow, but that was back when Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan was a thing.
I was into it.
That's nothing wrong with following at that time. Nothing.
No,
wrong.
I mean, my dad used to go like I don't know if it was like the third Wednesday.
You had a good father.
I did, and we always sat ringside. But I also knew that it was somewhat pretend, and I used to find it funny the people that really thought it was real. And this was back. Now I think most people know that it's just sort of athletic theater.
I was into it for a very brief period during the peak of the Attitude Era. I actually went to WrestleMania 15 in Philly, and that was obviously when Steve and Dwayne were basically at the top of the business. And
That was a great era.
It was. And the
It was
comedy.
great.
And listen, say what you want about Vince McMahon. When he puts himself in the storyline, especially as the bad guy, it is comedy freaking gold.
Yeah, no, when wrestling is done well, it's not always done well. I mean, many things are not always done well. But when wrestling is done well, it can be a great art form. It really can. And the wrestlers, talk about a hard life. They have it really hard, That's tough living.
I want to unionize them.
That's one thing that Seidel talked about. There's,
they need to be unionized.
Trinity. Yeah, there's a number of lists. You get the right people behind it.
But 20 years ago, we tried to sort of do like a unionizing of the comics, but that didn't work. That one day it might happen, but
that would be cool too.
There's too many that don't want to do it.
The wrestlers are abused. They're abused.
A lot of people are. A lot of workers are.
Yeah,
that's the dynamic of humanity is abuse. If you look at human beings are the most destructive force the earth has ever seen. They've never seen anything like it before.
And we'll leave on this note since I know you got to run.
Perfect.
Just as, in my opinion, the greatest comic of them all once said, George Carlin said, "We are not going to destroy the earth. The earth is going to shake us off like a bad cold if we get out of line too much." And that's the truth. So
he was great. He was great.
Yeah. He was. And you are great too.
Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. We will reach out if you can do something for us on the 20th. That would be amazing.
Yeah, hit me up.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank you for being you, my friend.
Much.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Have a great evening, brother.
You know it. Winners.
Take care, man.
Bye.
Well, he is.
That was cool.
And I just like how
having like a 30 Rock moment.
Well, he doesn't shy away from the dry humor, and that's cool.
Oh no, he's hilarious. But I hadn't watched his stand up until today a little bit, and I watched some stuff, and he's great. But oftentimes I find that people that are comedians that are great on screen or great on TV aren't necessarily good stand-up or vice versa. To me that I've noticed that
there's
often.
also the thing that gets talked about a lot with comedians. Comedians tend to be very depressed people. And that is very true of obviously Robin Williams and Rodney Dangerfield.
Well, they're living in a depressing, when you're trying to make things funny that are not funny. I mean, that's what we were just talking about, trying to find humor in things that are totally depressing is depressing.
Yeah, and again, comedy unfortunately has changed in many ways for the worse. And again, I think that because the culture became so PC, that it took the edge off of what and again, the one comic I wasn't able to bring up that I wish I did was Dave Chappelle, and how his style is to basically be an insult comic to everybody. The greatest insult comic I ever heard was Don Rickles, and Don Rickles could insult everybody.
But that to me that's not clever. I'm sorry, it's not. That's just sort of like little insulting one-liners. I don't find that very clever.
Well, it depends on the circumstance. Listen, if that's your only... If you hear it a few times, fine. Then eventually, if that's all you've got, then eventually it wears itself out. There are comedians that I've heard.
Judah's humor is extremely bright.
Well, the thing that's great about Judah is that he doesn't go on a specific script. He's very much like Seinfeld in the sense that he can do observational comedy. He can talk about any particular subject. That's the thing.
He does great crowd work. That is something that is really, and that's not easy to do.
That's Larry David. And again, this is one of the things about Jerry Seinfeld that he always had a bad reputation as an actor because he couldn't keep a straight face. That's true. But if you've ever seen him in his prime doing stand-up, and really
he was great at stand-up. But of all the people on that show, he was the least funny.
Correct. Well, the show was designed for Jason Alexander, and everybody basically played off of him. It wasn't so much playing off of Jerry.
You just say that because it was created by Larry
David. But Larry
based on
David
himself.
is George
but
Costanza.
The central character was still Jerry Seinfeld.
Yes.
I mean, it just was. And this is a very different humor. I highly recommend anybody checking out some of Judah's stuff. It's really funny.
Yeah. And he can go hot and cold. He could do everything.
And speaking of which, this has probably been demonetized.
Yes, unfortunately, it's going to get demonetized. There was really no way of just telling him, "Hey, can you watch the F's and the
that's the
S's
thing.
and whatever?"
How do you?
You can't. You got to let him be him.
You can't with
So But that's the thing. I'm not offended. And if you called me, a drunken Irishman or whatever, I wouldn't.
Irish
care.
people drink.
Irish people do drink.
I know. I have yet to meet an Irish person who doesn't really drink. First of all, you're also half Jewish.
All right. Well, I'm half and half. So I'm an ass. I'm a butthole, but I feel guilty about it. So there's the Jewish guilt coupled with the Irish ass. So
Is that what it is?
I think so.
I've been to an Irish wake. It's way fun.
Well, we've been.
Those people party. I was at I swear to God, they could not replace the kegs fast enough. It was unbelievable.
It's supposed to be a celebration.
It's a celebration. They do it way better than the Jews do. You know what I mean?
Well,
sitting shiv is so unfun.
No,
you cover the mirrors, you sit on boxes.
Well, where I come
depressing.
from, not surprising, Jewish and Irish, I come from a very Jewish and Catholic area. And unfortunately, death is seen as a very sad, depressing, oh my God, this is horrific situation.
I know, but the Catholics, they get lit.
Yeah, well, I should rephrase. It depends
Irish
on
Catholics.
the culture. The Italians tend to be a little bit more on the sad side.
They're not known as, keggers at a wake.
No. But again, life is supposed to be enjoyed, and all too often we find ourselves just getting so wrapped up in, what can offend me today? And that's not, again, comedy is supposed to be, are people going to be offended? Yes, of course they're going to be offended. That's comedy. But everyone is an equal opportunity offender.
This almost makes me feel inspired to make remember Dice and his poems? He had his poems.
Dice Clay?
He had his poems. He called them his poems, the nursery rhymes. Hickory dickory dock.
Yeah. Dice.
Okay.
I was not a big fan of the Dice Man.
But
you know who I was a big
back in the day, he was so funny.
See, now a comedian that I was a huge fan of was Sam Kinison. And not everybody likes Kinison.
Too yelling.
He's
too yelling.
I'm too under the weather right now.
And yet I appreciate, but now him I appreciate. That I have respect.
There is no way, you see, Kinison would never survive today because he is way too edgy.
All of those people. I mean, a lot of those people wouldn't survive today in terms of their content. I don't know how they would. They'd be canceled. You can't have that. Look, Dice got it bad enough. And yet it was still risque that it still left him being popular. But that kind of thing today, you can't do that.
No way. And that's sad. And it shouldn't be like that. People should be able to express themselves.
Dice in his heyday was so funny. I'm sorry. It was so fun. And so few women appreciated it. That was something that made me sad because I thought it was hilarious.
To each their own. I don't have any. I mean, like I said, I wasn't a big
the nursery
much of a fan.
rhymes.
I loved Rodney Dangerfield.
Hickory dickory dock.
I thought that Rodney Dangerfield was very funny.
Rodney Dangerfield was funny.
I think, you know, like I said, Dave Chappelle.
You like old school, but I like Dave Chappelle's. Oh, that's a whole different.
I love Robin Williams.
I never loved his stand-up. I know that's like sacrilegious to say that, and I like him so much.
No, I agree. His acting and his improvisational comedy was infinitely better than him doing stand-up.
No, but even I just never. I know like his. I remember when he did his first HBO special, which was what really took off. I mean, I saw it when it aired. And
the one that was in like 82.
Yeah. It was, I remember what he was wearing. And everyone loved it and thought it was so great. And I just never loved Robin Williams on stage. And I liked him so much as an actor and as a person and like all those things. But I just never thought, I just thought he was so, it was too manic for me. He was so, I mean, he was on and on. I mean, like too manic for me.
Billy Crystal, again, is another good example of that. Like, if you've ever seen him do his Muhammad Ali bit, that's really good. I can really talk like Muhammad Ali.
No, don't. You know what? Can I just tell you, certain people should not be mocked by you. Like certain people, I know, but it doesn't sound right. Don't do Ali. Don't do that. He's the greatest. Don't. There's certain people that should be untouchable by that. And Muhammad Ali is.
But Billy Crystal, that was one of his most famous bits. Was doing his Muhammad Ali impression. So yeah, I can practice Muhammad Ali. I'm totally going to practice it because we definitely need an Ali today.
That's a whole.
Yeah, we do.
That was one of the saddest things was when he lit the torch at the Olympics for me. That was like heartbreaking
to see that.
Oh my God.
With Parkinson's at that point.
Couldn't. That was harsh.
Yeah.
That was really harsh. Like to see him like that.
You know, the problem for him is that he fought one fight too many. He ended up taking on a couple of fights late in his life that he shouldn't have taken.
But really, is that any different than the football players that are getting their heads bashed in?
Some
and
of them
having
just
that
simply
same
do not
brain?
know when to take the when that voice is telling you to stop and you don't listen. It
doesn't matter. These people are in it for the fight and the glory. They're not. It's not.
Well, again, this is human nature.
It's what they do.
People want to see people in the pit. They want to see
I
them.
am not a big fan of boxing as a whole. Like I've always found it kind of weird that you can make a lot of money doing something that you'd be arrested for if you were on the street. So like to me, I just don't like the idea of pounding people. Like it's just not my thing.
It's no different than the Roman Colosseum.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
Thing.
I don't like that either.
Hey, we pay you. You're a comedian. Dance. Do your thing.
And I understand it. Like I wouldn't want to ban it or end it. I mean, I understand it. I just personally don't like watching people beat the crap out of each other.
That's exactly why.
It's just not my thing.
That's why football's so popular.
And here's the thing, but at least with football, there is a point to the game other than just beating the crap out of each other.
But you know that when there's a big tackle.
It bothers me. I don't even like, and when I hear it, it freaks me out. And ever since I saw the Will Smith movie, which I knew was real stuff anyway, that concussion.
Well, ironically,
freaks me out.
When you say that, I actually was at the football game. I went to Rutgers. I was at the game where Eric LeGrand got paralyzed. I actually was.
And yes, Chuck, to answer your question, Lee has already confirmed that he will be participating. But again, we don't want to say that because what if things change or what if things happen or whatever. But yes, we have reached out to Lee Camp. And he is one of the people that is interested in our live stream. So yeah, we're on that. Anyone else that we would
and again, you know, but again, comedy is really supposed to be about the anti-establishment crowd.
You think that?
It really is supposed to be about that.
I don't know why you think that.
No,
it could be about anything.
Yeah, but you're not supposed. But again, you're not supposed.
Look at Colbert, as somebody pointed out before.
Well, Colbert's a great example of somebody who was acting like he was against the establishment, and now that he got a substantial payday, he really is a show for the establishment.
Well, what I think is, and this is something that just makes the most sense to me. He's always just been him. But when he was on The Daily Show and did the Colbert Report, that was the character. And what we all liked was that character. So once he was just him, then he's just another neo-lib. Then he's just another, you know, elitist
Imagine.
and, you know, elitist neo-lib on the, who knows?
I mean, if anybody has ever been able to watch or ever watched Johnny Carson or watched Letterman, Leno, it was never like that. I mean, it's gotten so unbelievably bad. And, you know,
do you think it's political correctness run amok?
I think that I think there's a number of factors. Number one, I think that independent media plays a role. I think that they're deathly afraid that their days are numbered and that they have to try to hold on to whatever power they can for as long as they can. And whoever is woke anti-Trump as hard as possibly can be is going to garner the most attention. You know, Trump thrives on chaos, but the truth of the matter is the only thing that really counts is policy.
I got to tell you, and like I said to Judah, when I see people doing the Trump jokes, to me, that just means you're uninspired. That's low-hanging fruit. First of all, it's old. It's not even that funny.
Yeah, but if you want,
he is a walking joke. You don't need to mock it any further.
Yeah. If you want to have one Trump joke or two, fine. But the whole bit,
that seems to be what everything. I know.
To
it's to me, it's laziness and it's lack of inspiration.
And it's also not willing to take a chance. And again, we've become. Who knows? That's a good question.
I don't know. I hope so. Now, look, if Jon Stewart crosses over to the other side, I'm going to be so sad.
I haven't seen anything from
him.
And
regardless, in any event, he has definitely been spending his time making changes and helping people and doing things and standing up for the 9/11 responders. He runs an animal sanctuary. He's been, you know.
Speaking of which, and one thing I will mention.
Animal sanctuary?
No. Somebody, I can't, I'd have to look in the chat, but we've stayed in touch with a lot of our volunteers from the campaign, like a family. And so one of them pointed out that they got a text message from Wasserman Schultz's camp. And it was just very interesting to see, asking for money, of course, what else is new? And so what was it that she was pointing out that was at the top of her agenda? Fighting Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trumpism. So when I say
Marjorie Taylor Greene,
you know, again, this isn't not a single thing about how she's fighting for the minimum wage.
Because she's not.
How she's fighting for the environment.
Because she's not.
How she is fighting to get us out of the Middle East.
Yeah, no,
we're fighting Marjorie Taylor Greene. And
well, she also had a bunch of Confederate wanting to rename Confederate and take down names, statues, and stuff like that. So she's very busy with her political.
By the way, I will say this: Lori Boebert, the one who's out in Colorado, that is a competitive district, and I can understand going after her. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is in a +27R district.
No, but she could definitely be primaried. That would be nice.
Yes.
And I would like to put my thing with her, and this is old school. And only people who knew me from when I was like little will get this. She needs her ass kicked, but something fierce.
Yeah.
She does. That's what it is. Now, if it happens to be Marie Newman who comes out and slaps her upside her head from in front of her office, all the power to her. That woman needs an ass kicking. And like I said, also a swirly. A swirly would be in order. She needs something. Because that she needs to be taken down a notch.
But if you think that a Democrat is going to unseat her, well, again, and again, people need to learn about the political grift and what that means and how money moves in politics. The Lincoln Project is a prime example of the worst kind of grift. They're not there to help you. They're not there to make your life better. They're there to figure out how to take you for all you've got. That is their agenda.
That's not our agenda.
No, it's not our agenda. We don't even like asking for money.
No, I really don't like asking for money.
But
we need money.
We do need money. So we need this channel to grow. We need more people to tune in.
But really, everybody, just if you share the stuff on YouTube, let the ads play. You know, just like and subscribe and get people to subscribe. That's really the best way to help us. Short of sending us money, but you can always send us money.
Yes, you can always send us money. We are certainly grateful for that. And remember, this is all about turning politics into service.
It is. So more importantly, anybody who's local, please go on to the webpage, generationalchange.com, sign up with GenCore, come out to the garden. We have Mallory's on here right now. And I know she had texted me the other day from the garden and saying how cool it was. So every week it's cooler and cooler. And it is an amazing opportunity to not just learn about sustainable farming, because it's really cool.
Correct.
But it's just a really good way to meet people and really establish a nice coalition and community. And it's been very amazing to me so far how much that every week something really cool happens at the garden.
Well, you guys
besides food. I mean, there's a lot of collard greens.
Well, I should probably take some and cook.
A lot of collard greens.
Oh, they're good to eat.
Yeah.
So with that said, We appreciate you coming on. We probably should call it a night because
I'm
we're still under
sundowning.
the weather. Yeah, we're still under the weather, and we definitely are. Need a couple of three more days.
Yeah,
of
let the ads
Wednesday.
play. I know it stinks. It's not ideal. And you know what? Not every time. Like for me, when I'm watching something on YouTube, if I'm watching for like a new startup channel like us, I let the ads play because I know it matters. When I'm watching Kyle Kalinske, I don't let the ads play. He's got enough. We can move on. So really got to just use your discretion. But like newer channels, if you let the ads play, it really helps.
It really does. And so we are very grateful for your support. Thank you for tuning in.
Oh, wait.
tonight.
I gotta do a shout out. Hold on.
Yes. Oh,
I got it. New Patreons. I'm so sorry. How dare I forget this?
You didn't even need a reminder. You just thought of it yourself.
I did think of it myself.
Jeez.
Okay. Yay. Okay. New patrons. We have Commander Clean, Kenny Kirby, Grace Jean, Nina Davis, Carlos Osorio, and my love, Anthony Paz, who I don't think is probably watching this because I haven't seen him comment. But
Commander Clean.
With a K, Commander Clean, Cleen.
Kenny
So we're very thankful, you guys.
Kirby.
And seriously, even people, when you sign up to be $1 patron, it's, you know what, it means so much to me that people just care enough to do that. It really does. And it isn't about the money as just much the support. And I really do appreciate it. So yay to these people.
We have 5, 4.
And to Nina and Carlos, you will be getting your cool generational change bracelets.
Yep.
And when I get in touch with my friend Anthony, if he's not watching, but Anthony's going to get nice shirts. Oh, sorry. So thank you guys so much for supporting. Spread the love. I don't have one of my bracelets sitting here. It's over there. But you get a really cool, for a $5 Patreon, you get a really cool hemp bracelet that's from a girl on Etsy that I had do our purple and orange hemp weave bracelets. So not only are you supporting us, you're supporting a crafter on Etsy when you do that. And yeah, Anthony Paz, who, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, was our field director on my campaign. So it's cute that he's now a Patreon. Anyway,
remember to hit the like button, subscribe on YouTube, and share. We appreciate you guys as always. We'll see you real soon. And check out the new podcast. We have a whole bunch of videos that just dropped. So check them out. Got Michael Mann. We got.
And I have to apologize
James,
to John for not putting up the graphic, but everything happened so
Washington.
quickly.
Yeah, like I said, the fact that we pulled through this tonight because we are.
Yeah, we're not in our best way.
We're not in our best way. Totally not. But hey, it's allergy season.
You think it's allergies? I'm just glad it's not COVID.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I know it's not COVID.
knock on wood.
I can breathe.
Good night, guys.
Bye, all. Peace out.